Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the acting Premier. Prior to the 2014 election, the Premier told Torontonians that the Relief Line subway was one of her top transit priorities. But since the election, she has refused to commit to funding the construction of the Relief Line. Mayor of Toronto and the TTC say that the Relief Line must be built before the Yonge Line extension, or else there'll be transit chaos. But the Premier seems to be more interested in saving Liberal seats north of Toronto than funding a subway project that transit experts say must come first. Why is the Premier once again putting her own political interests ahead of what's best for Toronto transit riders?
Minister of Transportation.
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I thank the member from Parkdale for her question this morning. That member and every member in the chamber will know that we are the provincial government that is investing more in public transit in the City of Toronto and in communities in every corner of Ontario, more so than any other government in history. Speaker, our investments in transit in Toronto are in fact unprecedented. Now, interestingly, Speaker, just a couple of days ago at the City of Toronto, there was a staff report that came out that said, among other things, that over the next up to 2 years, the City of Toronto staff will continue to refine and provide the public with a finalized budget for some of the projects that the member opposite is talking about, like the Relief Line, Speaker. We look forward to seeing that information flow out of the City of Toronto, and I've said repeatedly the conversation will continue with Toronto. But in the meantime, we are the only level of government that's provided $150 million in planning money to help advance the Relief Line, $55 million for Yonge North, Speaker, and at the same time, we're investing literally billions in Toronto and in the 99 communities across Ontario that have transit systems that deserve our support.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back again to the acting Premier. What Toronto wants is pretty clear on this file, Mr. Speaker. They have declared the Relief Line to be the top transit priority. Nothing new in that. And prior to the 2014 election, the Premier said the Relief Line was her transit priority too. But so far, the Premier has committed exactly $0 to the construction of the Relief Line. It's impossible for the City of Toronto to plan the construction of major infrastructure projects when it doesn't know if the provincial government will be a funding partner. So I'm asking again, and it's clear, will the Premier commit today to funding the Relief Line, or will she keep letting down Toronto transit riders?
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Speaker. I do appreciate the passion that members on all sides of this House bring to the transit discussion and transit debate. I sincerely hope that the leader of Ontario's NDP and the third party and members of her caucus, I sincerely hope that they're not suggesting that it would be prudent for any level of government to confirm a contribution to a project for which there is not yet a confirmed budget, Speaker. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In the meantime, I will say again, we are the only level of government that has provided $150 million to prepare or to help advance the planning to make sure that the Relief Line is shovel-ready. Speaker, one of the other problems that I have with the line of questioning coming from that member and from that party is that they seem to suggest that we should favour one community over all of the others. Speaker, that's not how this side of the House views transit. In the GTHA, we know gridlock is not a uniquely Toronto problem or a 905 problem. It doesn't respect municipal boundaries. We need to keep investing in Toronto and in every other community that needs our support, and do so in the way that makes the most sense, Speaker. That's what we have done, it's what we are doing, and it's what we'll continue to do.